Bitcoin is not after the rate cuts that everybody was going on about. What a shock to absolutely no one that's been talking to me for the past few months. I've been saying this for a while. These rate cuts are not significant enough to cause any kind of market pump at 0.25 basis points. There is a cause. There is a way that you could get the market to pump based on rate cuts, and the rate cuts have to be significant enough. The rate cuts are not significant enough, and I said that 0.25%, this is not going to work, because I think something like 60% plus of mortgages in the US are financed at like under 3% or something along those lines. So 0.25, what's that going to do? Absolutely nothing. And that's what we've seen here. It's doing absolutely nothing. It's going to do absolutely nothing. And here's the crazy part. The person who's right about this is the President of the United States. He's been saying over and over and over again, Jerome Powell needs to cut more. Jerome Powell needs to cut aggressively. And what does Jerome Powell do? Come in, he had a perfect layup. He had the perfect layup from Goldman Sachs, from every banker, to go and cut 0.5%, which would have sent a strong signal to the markets. And he didn't do that. He cut 0.25%, which is basically like kind of like, let's give the president what he kind of wants type of cut, not a serious cut. And of course, what's happened? We had an initial buying up of bonds, and then a massive dumpage, and then the long tail of the curve has gone through the roof over the last day and a half, something like that. The market's basically corrected. The 10 years gone up to higher than what it was before the cuts came in, and so is the 30-year. This is not good. It means that there's no confidence in the U.S. economy long term. People are selling their bonds and they're not buying any bonds, which is what you kind of want to happen when you have a rate cutting cycle, right? So what does this mean, right? It basically means that we got to go back, and all the Bitcoiners that are sitting there going, rate cuts equals Bitcoin through the roof, Bitcoin Valhalla as soon as the rates cut, are just completely and utterly wrong. I've been saying this for months. So have a few other people, that a 20.25% cut is not going to do anything. In order to see asset prices go up, what you need to see is liquidity injected into the markets, and rate cuts, unless they are significant enough, are not a liquidity injection. And that's what's happened here, right? So we got to 0.25%. We need to get to at least 3%. And that's when it starts. That's when a feeling of liquidity is going to start coming into the market at 3%. Before that, we've got, this is all just, I don't even know what this is, right? This is not a serious rate cut. Now, what this does signal, though, is that we're beginning a rate cutting cycle, right? And here's the problem, and where the president is right. If the Fed keeps saying that we are data dependent, but then the data that comes in can be revised a year later, 1 million jobs down, how really data dependent should you be? Because if the data is complete utter piece of crock shit, then how are you making your decisions, right? How are you making your decisions for what you need to be doing if the data itself can be reversed, revised, and corrected, and you basically admit, kind of lied to everybody to get the rates where we wanted them? So, you know, at this point, we're sitting here basically wondering when the bull market's going to start, because I don't even think a bull market started here. And Bitcoin is not going to pump in this environment where you've got, the 10-year, 30-year rates pumping right now, because they don't have any confidence in the Fed's rate cutting decision here. I think he had to make a decisive play in order to show the markets that they're serious, and they failed to do that, and the market's going to punish them. And the question that you've got to ask yourself is, are you getting mentally fatigued by what's going on here? Is the market drowning you down, weighing down upon your shoulders? And are you about to give up the game? Because really, the game here is to just hold on as long as possible, right? The best thing you can do with Bitcoin is not only the 3 rules of Bitcoin, but buy the Bitcoin and just forget about it. That's really it. The liquidity is coming. It will come. The Treasury has its mandate, Congress has its mandate, the economy is much weaker than it actually was, and that should be accounted for. And if the numbers were accurate, this rate cutting cycle would have started a long time ago. And Jerome Powell knows that, and everybody knows that, and the person that's been right about that at the aggression levels that this needs to happen is the President of the United States. And kind of, you know, in this scenario, the best thing that can happen now is that the Treasury and the President start figuring out how to inject liquidity through the Treasury, not through waiting on the Fed. And I think what's going to happen here is that Jerome Powell, while he has, in my opinion, been a great Fed chair thus far, is going to play this wrong by trying to be very conservative here. The banks already gave him the way out. The banks said, you know, the tariff, the PPI going up was a one-time effect based on the tariffs. They laid this out. The market was ready. He should have gone in and done a 50 basis point cut. He didn't do that. We've now got 0.25. The market's just said, take that and shove it up your ass. We don't like it. And we're still destabilized on the 10-year and the 30-year. Those are the treasuries that need to be sold, refinanced, and everything else, and that is the problem that the U.S. government is facing. I think we're about to see a period of rapid cutting here on a month-to-month basis or a meeting-to-meeting basis. So we'll see. But right now, if anyone's expecting some kind of pump here, it's not going to happen with the 10-year and the 30-year pumping after a rate cut, right? The markets basically said, you're not serious, we don't care. You got all this uncertainty on the tariff side, you got all this uncertainty everywhere. We want, we want flight to safety, right? And so that's what's going on here. Bitcoin is the hedge against all of this, right? All of this drama over the long term, Bitcoin is the hedge. It is absolute finality of scarcity, which means you don't have to deal with this absolute horse shit or worry about it. You just buy Bitcoin, shut the fuck up, get fabulously wealthy, and it just works because of the absolute finality of scarcity around it. But I am not surprised at all that the price of Bitcoin is not going straight vertical as a result of a 0.25% cut. And if you've been listening to me, talking with me, watching anything I've been saying, then you also know this as well. I have been saying this forever, for a few months. It is much better that the Treasury and the White House figure out how to inject liquidity into this market, not the Fed. And that's basically what Jerome Powell has kind of lined up here. I guarantee you there's conversations going on with the Treasury, with the White House on figuring out how to get some liquidity into this market. The good news is that Congress also has that mandate because of the jobs market weakening, and Jerome Powell is going to be out. And of course, we had, the new Fed chair talking about this third mandate of the yield curve. And this is exactly the issue here, right? You've got unstable rates now on the 10-year and the 30-year during a rate cutting cycle. I would not be surprised if we see some kind of pullback, some kind of whatever. And basically it might be happening right now, basically a stalling out in the price. So something to watch. But again, ultimately, there's always only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy.